Welcome to today's webinar, College Students Lead the Way, Anti-Sexual Assault Activism and Enough is Enough. I'm thrilled that you were able to join us today. So this webinar was organized by the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault and the New York State Campus Consent Consortium. Later in the presentation, we're also going to hear from the co-founders of Survivors Eradicating Rape Culture. So I'm really excited to get started. Okay. So my name is Michelle Carroll, and I am the campus coordinator with the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I have the pleasure of working with students, university administrators, Title IX coordinators, state police, and rape crisis center advocates throughout the state. I am a 2013 graduate of Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a member of Kappa Delta sorority, and a former collegiate activist. So before we get started, I have just a few logistical notes. Everyone except myself and our two presenters are muted. However, I ask that as a precaution, you mute yourself manually on your phone or computer. And I don't hear any feedback, so I actually think everyone on this webinar is doing that correctly, so I thank you. Throughout the presentation, I encourage you to use the chat function at the bottom left of your screen. Only I will be able to see your questions, and I will anonymously answer your questions or share them with Survivors Eradicating Rape Culture. If you prefer, you can also email me your questions. My email is below. If you want to be identified, please just let me know that as well. And the last 15 minutes of the webinar will be solely devoted to questions. All right, so let's dive in. Today we're going to cover a lot of really important information regarding New York's new collegiate sexual assault law, commonly referred to as Enough is Enough. Statistics show us that 5% of students will report their sexual assault to law enforcement, but only 2 out of every 3 will tell a friend. By joining us today, you are ensuring that if a friend comes to you, you will be able to help them navigate the options before them. And maybe more importantly, you'll be able to make sure your friend's rights are preserved during all interactions with their university, local police, state police, and campus police. Okay, so enough is enough. What is it, and why should it matter to New York University students? Enough is Enough is a New York State-specific anti-sexual assault law passed in 2015 and works in tandem with the protections and rights in federal laws such as Title IX and the Clery Act. The goal of Enough is Enough is threefold. First, it's to end sexual assault and interpersonal violence on our campuses. Second, if and when violence occurs, Enough is Enough ensures that victims have access to information about all available resources and services in the college community as well as the greater community, such as rape crisis programs. And finally, Enough is Enough aims to transform campus climates through effective and data-centered prevention education for all community members. That includes students as well as professors and administrators. Okay, so what's in it? Enough is Enough is a fairly long and comprehensive law. This slide contains an overview of the different sections, and unfortunately, I don't have enough time today to review each one. However, I would like to point out that the items that are starred are policies that private universities must adopt. Public universities, like the CUNY or SUNY systems, must have adopted all aspects of Enough is Enough. I encourage students to read the law and email me with any questions regarding the sections that I can't review today. You can find the legislation online. Okay, so the first right in Enough is Enough that I want to go over today is the right to an advisor. Every institution in New York must adopt the Student Bill of Rights as written in Enough is Enough. I've shared one specific section here with you today, and that's the right to an advisor of your choice. The law requires that both the victim or the reporting student and the accused are allowed at least one advisor of their choice. This includes a lawyer, a professor, or another faculty member. You may also choose an advisor outside of your campus community, such as a rape crisis advocate. Unlike a professor or a faculty member, a rape crisis advocate is trained in the medical, legal, and emotional needs and rights of survivors of sexual and domestic violence, and will be able to help you receive services such as group therapy or one-on-one sessions should you desire them. As per Enough is Enough in the federal laws, You are allowed an advisor from the first moment of disclosure to your Title IX coordinator. So the first meeting that you decide to have with your Title IX coordinator, where you explain that you're a victim or you've experienced sexual violence, you can have an advocate in the room. In fact, you can also even meet with a rape crisis advocate before you make any decisions in regard to reporting to your Title IX office, the police, or the state police. An advocate is 100% on your side and is committed to helping you explore your options. By law, your advocate can attend every meeting that you have with your university, including a student misconduct hearing. They can help you represent your interests in a student misconduct hearing as well. They can also help you navigate your university's Title IX process, a criminal justice investigation, family court, and beyond. I also want to emphasize that if you begin working with an advocate as your advisor, you have the right to also change your advisor should you decide to. If you decide to work with a faculty member or a lawyer, you have that right as well. Okay. So the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault's website has a really nifty database for rape crisis programs in the state. If you go to our website and click on the Get Help tab, which I've illuminated here, you can then search by county or zip code to find the closest rape crisis program to you. Here's an example of what it looks like for Albany County. You see that the office phone number is here as well as the hotline, and you can also search by zip code as well. The next right that I'd like to talk about is in regards to the explanation of options. So as I mentioned previously, every student has the option of reporting sexual violence to their Title IX coordinator at their school. When a student reports, Enough is Enough mandates that the school official gives certain information to that reporting individual. On this slide, I have the exact language from the Enough is Enough legislation. The paragraph contains the minimum a university should present to the reporting student at the first opportunity of disclosure. In fact, in the guidance that's authored by the State Education Department in regards to Enough is Enough, it's even recommended that universities instruct administrators to have a copy of this paragraph on hand. Schools also have the option of instructing administrators to use different words, but the essence of this statement must stay the same. So each student must know at the first instance of disclosure that they have the right to report to campus police or local law enforcement or the state police. They also have the right not to report to any law enforcement. That includes campus police, local police, or state police. Students also need to know that they have the right to report their sexual assault to the university or decide not to. And they also need to know that they have the right to be protected from retaliation from the university regarding their report. And finally, students need to also know that they have the right to receive assistance from their university. So this next slide is a little bit more of a deeper dive into what assistance from your university can look like. So once a student reports a sexual assault, the university has a responsibility to effectively eliminate the hostile environment that is affecting the victim. The hostile environment is understood to mean the victim's likelihood of seeing or running into the accused while on campus or even off campus. Essentially, this means that a university's responsibility to ensure that the reporting student or victim does not experience harassment, bullying, or continued violence as a result of their report. So schools are able to do this by employing what are called accommodations immediately upon a student's report of sexual violence. When a report is made, students have the right to request accommodations and to have universities make those changes as quickly as possible. Accommodations can look a variety of ways. It can mean changes to housing, so moving your dorm room or living in a different building. It can mean changes to class schedules, changes to parking spots, or identifying certain times for using university facilities like cafeterias, the library, or the gym. Excuse me, I went to the wrong one too soon. We recommend that students and their advisors get accommodations written in writing during that first meeting with the Title IX coordinator, campus police, or other university officials. So I specifically starred no contact orders in the section on what Enough is Enough protects in regards to accommodations because Enough is Enough provides additional guidance on the right to receive a no contact order. So a no-contact order does not need to be obtained through a court of law, but it's a formal university document that requires universities to clearly articulate to both students when the accused student is in the same location as the reporting student, that the accused student must leave without alerting the reporting student. So I realize that's actually a very complicated idea, so I'd like to break that down. So essentially what it means is a no-contact order is a university's type of order that makes sure that the victim isn't in the same place at the same time as their perpetrator. And so if it happens that the perpetrator is in the same place as the victim, like in the cafeteria, it's the responsibility of the accused to leave that location immediately and without alerting the accused. So, Enough is Enough also outlines a procedure for both students to review the no-contact order and, if applicable, request potential modifications. So it's a very, very fair process, but essentially it ensures that the reporting student, the victim, feels safe as the school begins investigations or the campus security or local PD. So Enough is Enough also provides guidance on what a university should do if a no-contact order is violated. And so Enough is Enough mentions the possibility of arrest, additional conduct charges, or even interim suspension. Okay. So the next right that I'd like to talk about is the right to receive ongoing prevention education. And just before I begin, I see that I'm getting a lot of really great questions on the side. I'd just like to remind you to keep sending your questions in, and I will review and answer them during the last 15 minutes of the webinar, but keep them coming. So, the right to receive ongoing prevention education. In my opinion, this section in Enough is Enough is possibly the most important. Here, the law outlines the specific populations that must receive ongoing prevention education. Those populations are first-year students, transfer students, athletes, and student leaders. So the law doesn't actually break down who the student leaders are, but it's understood that that means club and organization officials and leaders, and I even take that to mean sororities and fraternities. So, as I mentioned, the legislation is unfortunately really vague when describing what prevention education must look like. However, it does clearly state that it can't be an online program only. So there must be in-person trainings as a part of ongoing prevention education in order to meet the responsibilities in Enough is Enough. So the State Department of Education did provide some guidance on this particular aspect of Enough is Enough. They wrote that this campaign, the ongoing prevention education campaign, needs to go beyond orientation time, you know, that first weekend that you're on campus where you receive a whole ton of information about drinking and classes and where the health center is, and it has to go beyond that. So it needs to take place over the course of each academic year and offer different training and education options. It's also important to note that the entire student population is not mandated to participate or complete prevention education. However, the vagueness of the law allows us to envision a prevention education campaign that goes beyond first years and instead engages the entire campus community all year round. So I consider Take Back the Nights or Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, documentary showings, art projects, op-eds, panel discussions, and speakers addressing sexual assault to be a part of prevention education. So students, if you're looking to help your university develop additional prevention education, reach out to your local rape crisis program. Many have been doing this work for decades and have developed creative programming and would be happy to share it with you. I know myself that I have lots of ideas as well. Okay. So the role of students. Since Enough is Enough is a fairly new law, I mentioned it was passed only in 2015. This is the first school year, the 2016-2017 school year, is the first year that this law is actually on the books and affecting our students. So there's still a lot of room for improvement. And Enough is Enough specifically identifies the New York State Education Department as the enforcer of this law with the support from the Office of Campus Safety. However, it may take many months for both offices to review the data sent by schools. Should universities be found to be uncompliant with Enough is Enough or not meeting their responsibilities as outlined by the legislation, there are penalties. However, this is where students come in. Students are a vital part of ensuring that our universities are meeting the standards in Enough is Enough, and frankly, it's students that are going to push universities to go above and beyond. For example, if you aren't satisfied with the prevention education that you've received or are receiving or seeing on your campus, you have options. So you can file a complaint. Currently, the complaint structure for Enough is Enough is in its infancy. But I'll be honest with everybody on here, I have had a really wonderful conversation with the Deputy Director of the New York State Office of Campus Safety, who has assured me that anyone who emails her with a concern will receive a response. And ultimately, that could turn into investigation. So you can send her an anonymous email. I have her email up here on the PowerPoint, and I will send it out at the end of this presentation as well. But you can also ask me to email her anonymously for you. I will make sure that you stay anonymous as long as possible. And Enough is Enough and other federal laws protect you from harassment from your school should you decide to pursue a complaint. You may email me with any questions or concerns, and I'm happy to discuss specifics of your experience and review your options. Okay, so staying in the know. I know that was a lot of information, and I'm really glad that I was able to begin this conversation with you today. Of course, this webinar as well as these slides will be available to you. Since you signed up for this webinar, you'll be receiving a thank you, and in that thank you will be a recording where you'll be able to review this webinar. So if you're interested in staying updated with what the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault as well as the New York State Campus Consent Consortium is doing, such as upcoming trainings and webinars, please like us on Facebook, which is right here. This is our Facebook page, and you can also sign up